For more than 5 years, many of my YouTube videos have been filmed on my basement train layout. This has been a staple location of my railroad endeavors nearly from the beginning, and it's come a long way. I've spent hundreds of dollars and hours tweaking this set and running many different trains on it, but over the past few months, I've changed the layout more than I ever have before. So join me on this HO scale project, one of my biggest model railroad undertakings yet. This layout's history began in the late 2000s when it was built by my grandpa and older brother, who was at one point a railfan himself. It is DCC powered using the Digitrax system and is set in the modern-day United States with an emphasis on BNSF. Although I have dabbled in the 1970s and other railroads too. While I've made my share of changes, mostly the addition of a yard area and more buildings, the overall feel of the layout remains the same. It's a double-track main line that passes through a tunnel in the back corner and a small town area. So that sounds fine and good. I'm keeping this layout running as my own while upholding a sort of family tradition. But as I continued getting more locomotives and running more trains, operation problems became more frequent. You see, the layout may have sturdy benchwork and DCC capabilities, though perhaps its biggest Achilles heel was the track work. Time and time again, a train would jump the tracks on a certain section, I would smooth that section out, only for derailments to pop up somewhere else. These usually happened on joints where two sections of track connected, or on curves, which this layout had a lot of. It was by far the #1 annoyance I had with my layout, but hey, I always fix the problem spots in the end. As long as they don't ever happen in the most inaccessible part of my layout, say, I don't know, the tunnel that is fixed to the table in the back corner right next to the stone wall. If it doesn't happen there, everything should be just fine. And guess where the trains started to derail? Yep, the tunnel. I knew that this time I could not fix this on my own, and if I wanted to get rid of these bad spots for good, I would need some help. That help would come from a fellow train man by the name of Owen. I've tagged along with him a lot on rail fanning trips, and I know I've shouted him out on this channel before, but honestly, this man deserves it. He was a huge help through this entire project, and I honestly could not have done it without him. Thank you so much. Everyone check him out. We soon set to work fixing up the defective track spots, but as we kept working on the layout, we started thinking about how to improve it. Of course, the main priority was to minimize derailments as much as possible, and given the condition of my track, that would require almost all of the track to be replaced with new sections. A tall order, but that gave us a lot of opportunities to not only minimize derailments, but enhance the layout's operations. That meant crossover switches to run trains between main lines, something I had never done on this layout prior, and more sidings and stub tracks for switching moves. And with more track came more capacity as well, something I was in desperate need of. As I got more locomotives and cars, I began to run low on the amount of space I had to store them. The rail yard helped with this, but it got to a point where I used it less as an actual yard and more as just a few tracks for storage. And even then, it only had a capacity of about a dozen cars. But just a single siding between the outside of the tunnel and the end of the yard could hold more than that, not to mention several spurs to serve industries, all of which were drawn on the track plan we came up with for the new and improved HO layout. And with a few $100s of track purchased from Randy's Roundhouse, we soon set to work.
That's just great to watch.
Oh yeah.
The Ponca City Blackwell area is 68 degrees today.
Main one is about finished, and when it dries, we'll have the ceremonial golden spike.
Here, I'll put my hand. Can you see it better now?
Yes,
Yeah.
you can.
Okay.
Ready? Here it is, the driving of the golden spike. All right, we did it. At long last. Alright, let's get some stuff running. Just about as predicted, we can fit just barely 14 cars, which is still more than the original yard, so we'll take it. We still gotta build the stub.
And the team track.
Yes. You like jazz? Sorry, I had to. By the time the dust and ballast had settled, the layout looked very different. Many of the more winding stretches of track were straightened out, and the trains passed through the crossovers with ease, most of the time. In a similar trend to the real thing, we were able to eliminate the presence of rail joiners with the help of a soldering iron, allowing for very long track sections and a smoother run as a result. But the biggest change of all was the yard area. As hoped, our siding could hold an entire train, while the spurs allowed for easy switching operation. Oh no! I have these covered hoppers that I'm not using at the moment. How will I ever get them off the main line now? Physically putting them and taking them somewhere else would take way too long. Yep. I just don't know how I'll ever be able to solve this problem now. The locomotive tracks saw an improvement too, as they are actually part of the layout now, using some plastic rail joiners, and no longer physically isolated. That was so bad, oh my gosh. Even the accessories got an upgrade in the form of lights, something I never had the chance to install in my structures before. So by this point, things were looking really good. The trains were running well on the new track, and a lot of the goals we had in mind, like less derailments and more capacity, seemed to be met. But this layout and the laws of physics were not done with us yet, because there was one more spot of issue. On most parts of the layout, two trains could run with no interference between each other. But on this particular curve, the radius was just a little too tight and the tracks a little too close. This would cause many trains to make contact and sideswipe each other, potentially causing a derailment. If something did not derail from that, the tight radius on the second main line would be sure to get it. That's off. The latter issue wasn't a problem for every train I ran on this line, but these two factors combined were too much to ignore. So with the purchase of some more curves, this time returning to sections rather than flexi-track, we got working again.
Tell all the videos from when we first started doing this?
Yes, I do. I'm gonna make like a whole little video about this project.
Hopefully this will be the last addition to it.
Hopefully, yeah. It's very ominous. He's waiting for the perfect moment to highball.
I know the grain cars won't derail.
Yeah.
keep moving though. See if they all come off again. Yeah, I can definitely say that they did all come off.
Oh, yeah. Looks like Tehachapi Loop right there.
It does.
Average day on Tehachapi. Except wrong motive power.
They might jump right back on. Let's see.
We'll find out.
No. Now it might derail everywhere. Yep.
Yeah, that's what I figured would happen. It would start moving that way. Behave yourself.
The grain cars would go beautifully over it.
Yeah.
Oh, it came off right there. Yeah, it really came off.
Like the locomotives. Most average day on the layout.
With our new track in place, the curve saw another facelift, and most importantly, the change allowed trains to pass with little to no contact, and finally got rid of those pesky derailments. Mostly. While the Athearn 9 and AC44 models have been good runners for me, for whatever reason, they're fitted with absolute garbage wheels that can jump the track on a moment's notice. That's why we used these engines to test the track throughout this project, since they were the most prone to derailing. I found that some of them can make it across, though I don't know if all of them can. But you know what? Everything else went over it fine, so at that point it's more of an issue with the locomotives themselves than with the layout. And as long as there are less derailments than before, which there are, I'm satisfied. The sideswiping was greatly reduced as well. It's not 100% gone, as my biggest cars can sometimes make contact, but it's no longer a hazard for the majority of my trains. And that is where the layout stands today. But as always, expansion still continues. One last job we finished was installing a track leading into the warehouse to give another industry rail access, something we had planned to do for a while before we called it a night. Just as we had hoped, rail operations on this layout have become better than ever, and now that they have improved infrastructure to run on, my locomotives and cars are next in line for projects. I have gradually continued weathering my rolling stock and giving them FRA reflectors, two things that I started last summer. And while it's still in early stages, I am beginning to experiment with DCC decoder installation in my locomotives, but we'll see how that goes. For now, I am very happy with where my layout is at, and am immensely grateful for the help of Owen and everyone else who made this possible, and for you for sitting through my latest model railroad endeavor and watching this layout change even more than it has from the beginning. Thank you for that, and I'll see you in the next one.